We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Our guest this morning is Dr. Mary Evins. She's a professor of history over at MTSU, involved with the American Democracy Project. And we're basically talking about the concept of getting out and voting, how important that is. And too often these days in this country, it seems like just a handful of people are the ones that go out to vote. They've got it together, and they're dictating the policies for everyone else, for right or wrong. I mean, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I think, would you agree a strong democracy is bolstered when you have a large turnout? I mean, is that the most, is it important to have a large turnout?
We would like to think that our elected officials and that our government actually represents the American people.
Right.
And there are people who don't vote, some who legally cannot do so. Former felons who have not met the criteria to get reinstated as voters, they're being represented by others and their voice is not getting to count. Folks who are under 18, our children, the policies that we make at the federal level impact them. So, point being, we have a responsibility to create the government that we want. And you know, the classic tale, be it apocryphal or not, that the Benjamin Franklin phrase, you know, it's a republic if you can keep it. And I think that's part of the education process for all Americans, not only our students, but every single solitary American walking down the street, to realize that this 200-plus year country that we're about to have, and we're moving toward 250 here in just a very few years, requires diligent participation by the electorate, and it is ours to keep it. And it is an experiment. And we talk about, you know, the grand American experiment, and this was an anticipated turn of the way governments could be crafted, and that we were a role model for the world, and the city upon the hill, and the shining light. We're only that if we live up to the ideals of what participatory democracy is all about, and that requires that we participate in order to choose those who represent us, and then go on to the city council, county commission, state house, and the federal government, and to the White House as well.
Listen, we have some people that are following this, and a lot of the viewers of this show actually vote and have questions. And I think Cindy, good morning, Cindy. How are you doing, Cindy?
How are you doing, Nick?
Good. What's on your mind, kiddo?
It's going to be a great show. Yes, everybody should vote. Everybody should vote. But, you know, I tell you what, I've been watching some of those debates, and the one thing that cracked me up, of all the answers you could give, when somebody says, what is the worst misconception you think about yourself? And the answers they gave, one like hair, the other, I talk too much. The other one, he yells too much. I'm thinking, I would ask, what kind of question is that? I have no misconceptions. What about yours?
Well, listen, you know, the debates, and Cindy's one that I think has followed debates closely. A lot of people have. The ratings, I think, in general, for watching the debates this time around and last time around with all of those Republicans running for the ticket, the ratings were good. And that's where I wonder, are people interested? Are they tuning this out or paying attention? Now, I don't know who's watching, but would you agree that, I mean, the ratings, people seem to be interested. I'm not sure why they're watching the debates. Most people have already made up their minds. But what do you think? And again, right now it's the Democrats and this pool of Democrats running for the candidacy. Last time around it was a large pool of Republicans. And it was fascinating watching the debates last time, and I think same thing this time.
Well, I don't know. The caller makes a good point. Sometimes silly, we go off on silly tangents in these debates. But I do think the way it kind of comes out, and certainly the way the news media tend to represent it often after the fact, is that there was a winner, and it might have been that person who was the most pugilistic, or you know, who grabbed the most airtime. So I clearly am not a campaign manager. I would do poorly at that kind of task, and it's hard to know what their objectives are. I just hope people are really looking at their policies, because that's really the issue, what they really care about and what they vote for, and hopefully their websites have those delineated.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more in terms of watching this, and just, I hate the fact that they try to come up with a winner. All right, you can always say there's maybe a line that maybe got some chuckles and people reacted to. I'm not looking for that. I just watch a debate to try to learn, like I can, if you can, some with policies. I don't think you're going to get a lot from policy on that front, you know, during a debate. But yeah, do you get the sense in presidential election years, clearly, it seems like that at least motivates more voters to get out that don't typically vote in other years? Is that the case? And here in Tennessee?
Yeah,
okay.
Our numbers are always higher every 4 years for the presidential years.
Any way to tell how this year is shaping up compared to 4 years ago?
Well, if we could use 2018 perhaps as an example, the voter participation rate in Tennessee jumped across the state, and I can certainly speak even more directly to the universities.
Okay.
And student participation in the 2018 midterm elections increased nationally at an average of about 31 percentage points, and specifically at Middle Tennessee State University, 23% more of our students voted in the midterm election. So I think the numbers are going to be up, and you know, there are reasons for that. 2018 was a highly competitive election, so that helped, and as will this fall's election be.
Sure.
We have online voter registration in the state of Tennessee now, which we did not have for the 2016 presidential election. So hopefully that will participate and help increase the numbers a little bit. And then also, we're just working proactively to do educational programming such as this so that the word gets out that our citizenry needs to step up.
I talked to you earlier about, you know, concern whether or not their vote counts when you're talking about electoral college and popular vote. Aside from that, another issue, do you believe, and maybe some of your students bring this up, but I hear it sometimes in the news business, that you can have confidence in the voting machine system, that can't be breached, that there is security in place to ensure that your vote is counted and that no one is tampering with the totals?
I think that's a real concern, and I am not on the front lines of precise information about this. I know within Tennessee a really good resource to look to for addressing these issues is Think Tennessee, which is highly focused right now on voter security and the machinery of voting. And one thing that I do know is that we let each of our 95 counties make individual decisions on what sorts of machinery will be utilized in that county. So it is not universal across the board. There have been federal dollars that were made available after the 2016 election for the state of Tennessee to utilize and disperse to improve our voting machinery, and not all of those dollars have been accessed, which is a shame. And the current idea now is that there needs to be paper backup, and we really don't have that. And we're one of the few states in the nation without that paper backup. And I would say that's a little bit disconcerting, and it's time that our legislature steps up and fixes this systemically.
And it is interesting. I've lived in different counties, and you'll go from one county to the other and see a different machine, a different type of machine. I'm like, wait a second. It does seem to make sense to me, doesn't it, to you, that the machine should be uniform. Find something that really works that's good and have it uniform throughout the state. Heck, it should be uniform nationally, but I understand it's not just state by state, it's county by county.
That's right, and the poorer counties obviously are less well positioned to address these issues.
Yeah, maybe not have the latest technology or whatever it is that makes for a good machine, but I still have faith in the system. Okay?
I do too. I very much do.
And they do watch it.
But, excuse me, Nick, but I think the reason is that we have great people. I mean, when I think of all of our counties, and I think each of us personalizes it. I think of the officials in my home county, and those are all good guys. It doesn't matter if they wear a red hat or a blue hat. They are fine human beings who believe in the United States of America and democracy and want to do it just right. And I have absolutely nothing but respect for them, and I know that the numbers that they turn into our Secretary of State's office are precise.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then the Secretary of State, we always talk to him after the elections. Were there problems? There's always a hiccup here or there, but I think they do a good job of monitoring that and letting us know if there are any problems.
That's right. I think the problems are often just incidental.
Yes, right. All right. Let's see. We have another caller. I'm not sure if we caught her name, but you're on, caller, on line 1. Are you there, caller?
Yes.
Go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thanks. I'm just calling about the voting. I know when I was growing up, they never had all this argument and stuff. Why can't they be them without throwing, well, this one did this and this one did that? And this is the message they're giving to people like myself. What do we do? I don't want somebody like that in control of our country when they're dissing each other, showing the president no respect, everything he's done and everything that has caused the country with all this money. I just don't understand. You know, when I grew up, it was respect, and I've watched them for years. They never did what they did back then. Why are they doing it now? Why can't they be themselves? That's what people judge on, and that's what people vote. It's for them, but it just seems like the more negative things, the more people like, I guess. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I mean, she's talking about the lack of civility that's really amplified over the last several elections, and that turns people off too. You ask them, you know, well, who are you going to vote for? Well, it's not Republican or Democrat for me. I don't like any of them. They're all nasty, calling each other names and getting down dirty, and the civility, where is it? And that turns them off. People walk away from that.
Well, I would agree with you that our level of dialogue is certainly not what it used to be. That's because a level of our national vocabulary has shifted and changed. But I would vociferously disagree with our caller. I'm a student of history, and I can tell you we've had mean-spirited elections with lots of name-calling that has gone on throughout American history. The difference, of course, is that we have television coming into our homes, and now we have
social media
coming into our handheld devices. And it appears perhaps more rampant, but it was most assuredly always there.
Yeah, you know, as we go to the break, you know, we all live in the moment, and when we're alive, we think, and she's absolutely right, you can go back decades and find incredibly harsh, nasty races and the names calling. And you'll hear people now call in sometime to this show and say, well, why is everyone bashing President Trump? And then everyone, you know, when Obama was in office, why is everyone bashing President Obama? And in the moment, you all think, well, it's never been worse. No. Presidents always get bashed. It's the nature of the beast. And I will say this, the debates have just gotten more contentious on both sides whenever they do it than ever before. And there's just a lack of civility, folks, in general in society. We'll take a break. When we come back, more of your calls, more of our conversation about why it's important to vote and bring civility back. We'll be right back after this.